In this video, I'm going to show you how stock music might actually be the most expensive, cheap choice your brand is currently making. Imagine your team scrolling endlessly through hours and hours of library music, editing it to videos, and still the music isn't landing. It still doesn't feel quite right. We've seen teams spend more in staff hours and re-editing campaigns than you would have actually spent in sonic identity and creating a sonic identity for your own brand. So we're going to unpack the hidden time costs, the creative compromises, the licensing risks, and what a better alternative looks like. So stick with me and you'll see why sonic branding and investing in sonic branding might actually be the decision that saves you the most money this year on your campaigns. I want to share with you this illusion of cheap. Okay, so stock music does feel cheap up front. It might be $50 for a subscription per month, okay? And we've seen it upwards of $1,000 for a subscription for some brands as well. So the reality is every campaign is wasted hours of searching, testing and cutting, editing basically. And teams lose efficiency, flow and energy on music that should be ready-made. Drag and drop, for want of a better term. And the staff time is the black hole that we're talking about here. This is what we've done the research on, and the numbers really surprised us. So every editor spent on average 2 to 3 hours per campaign, and you think some brands are putting out a campaign every single week, if it in the form of like social media, and some editors are doing this daily, choosing music, editing it to videos, and multiplied across a year, that's $7,500 plus in staff costs per person. Now we came to that number because we were speaking to a lot of our clients on how much they pay their editors annually, how much time they spend in a week editing. So this is a very accurate baseline across all of our clients that we've spoken to about this, and that number surprised us. However, that number is before considering the cost of reworking edits and tracks that don't land, that get rejected from executives. And we know that happens more time than not. So wasted times of executives watching as well. They're on a much higher annual and hourly fee, however you want to calculate that. And feeding back on music themselves when they aren't quite experts either is also a huge issue, because the feedback isn't, we should change this music for this piece of music because this speaks to our values and our demographic, etc. That's not the kind of feedback that comes back. It's normally, can you give us 3 more options? And the spiral begins on how much time it actually takes just simply to choose the music. So you can see how we're starting to see this as a wasted section of the budget rather than a creative and positive part of the budget being spent. So what is that creative compromise? Well, music rarely fits visuals perfectly, and that creates awkward edits. One example we often give is the tempo of music. If a piece of music has been chosen that is slower, the pace of the video edit is going to be different to if an editor was editing to a much quicker paced piece of music, where the cuts would be quicker. It changes the whole dynamic, but the music is leading the way there. So if that is wrong, quite often it goes back to a video edit as much as it goes back to a music edit as well. And brand identity becomes inconsistent because between every campaign, it's a different vibe on each video, and you're speaking to wildly different people with every random choice that is made. That inconsistency equals no recall, no equity building. You're really not building any part of the brand. And I know so many of you watching this will be building and spending a lot of your time building the brand. And normally that's visual, okay? So the visual guidelines aren't matched with audio guidelines. So only half your energy is actually going towards consistency, and then the other half of the creative energy is being completely missed. So let's just briefly touch about, and I know this is a sore point for many, but licensing and legal risks, okay? So stock music isn't always safe. There are limits on usage such as geography, territory, paid ads, TV, events. They're all requiring different licenses to be cleared. So your team, if they aren't covered, might be unknowingly putting you into danger. Brand-owned music gives you that power to organize your licenses. It gives you the power to make those decisions, to make sure all your teams are covered with whatever campaigns you're working on that year. And brands often overstep that mark without realizing. So I don't think a lot of the brands that we see in the news that are being sued for incorrect music usage. I don't ever think it's intentional. I actually think it sits more into a naive category where we assume that we have the right to use things. Okay, so that exposure to the legal the legal fines and legal risks can include fines, and very hefty fines. In the US, it's $150,000 per use. Imagine putting an Instagram post up and you're a large brand and getting fined up to $150,000 in the US for it. And of course, the record labels aren't coming at you when you've used it once incorrectly. They're logging it, they're stacking up all the incorrect uses until it gets into the millions, because then it's worthwhile taking you to court. And worst of all, takedowns. TikTok are notorious for this. Overnight, campaigns and posts go silent. You have to take them down, re-edit them, put them back up, or they sit up there without being re-edited, which creates a lot of mistrust between audiences. And a good music agency that you're working with will keep track of all this for you. They will know your usage. They will make sure you're covered and raise those conversations with you and for you. So if you do have a music agency, have this conversation with them. And the real world cases are that campaigns are pulled down mid-flight, and that equals wasted media spend. Think of all the time and edits and brain power and storyboarding and brainstorms with the teams that you've done on the visuals, and then all of that gets derailed just because of a poor music choice. Okay, what is the smarter alternative? Let's get more positive with this now. One-off sonic branding systems equals a plug-and-play library. So we do cut downs. There's a team, Sky Bingo, that we worked with. We did a bit of an audit on how many pieces of content they've used. Predominantly, they're creating content that is less than 60 seconds long, and it's for their social content, and they're doing a few, like multiple posts a week. Now, we do cut downs of 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 15 and 10 seconds as standard. And then you have your Sonic logo, which is like 2 seconds. We do that as a standard. What that gives you is a plug and play, like drag and drop system where your team don't even need to cut up the audio to create the right length. Generally speaking, we will create the length of time, and that might be 25 seconds, in which case we'll create you a 25-second edit that can be drag and drop for all of your team to use. And it's built for you. Ironically, it saves time. Well, that bit's not ironic, but the irony is coming. It saves time, it builds consistency, and it leaves no legal grey areas. So the irony is, although it feels like an upfront cost, it's actually way more effective in terms of your finances and the costs. So long term, it ends up being cheaper than ongoing staff and those ongoing license costs that you're spending on a subscription, which you need to continue paying for in order to keep using it. So you're locked in until you've ended up spending more than you would have done anyway, creating your own assets. So let's give this a quick summary. Stock music feels cheap in terms of it sounds cheap, but it's also a cheaper alternative initially. You think you're doing the cheaper option and saving budget, but in reality, it's costing you time, money, and consistency. So investing once in sonic branding saves you money every single time you press publish. And what you're probably missing is a partnership in order to make this happen and be honest and open with you in this format. And if you think you have a music agency handling all of this for you already, then do ask them about everything we've talked about today. See what their response is, see if you are being covered, and see if they are the right partnership for your needs. Music isn't just a nice to have anymore, it's a crucial part of brand building. And sonic branding, as we see it, being anywhere that a brand has sound, it's not just about a little jingle at the end of a TV campaign anymore. It's about anywhere your brand turns up with sound, which is quite extensive. And I think you need, it makes life easier to have a team of experts keeping their eye on this all the time. So I hope this video has been super helpful for you today. At bare minimum, it's got you thinking about sound in a slightly different way to usual. And if you want to ping me an email, it's george@hearmeoutmusic.co. You can see down in the bottom corner here, hearmeoutmusic.co. And we can hop on. We've got a couple of different ways we can do audits for you that give you a starting point. So optimize and utilize those. Our mission is to get brands thinking about music a lot deeper than currently speaking, and only 4% of marketing budgets get spent on sound. And I'm sure you'll agree the impact of good music used well consistently is a lot more powerful than 4%. So you're getting a good bargain overall. Okay, I'll see you on the next one.